Welcome back. You're watching Nation Tonight. In a tone that almost sounds like a call for protests, TikTok CEO Shu Zhiqiu has asked the app's American users to let their voice be heard. Listen in.
There has been a lot of misinformation, and I hope to clarify some things. First, thank you to our incredible community. You are what makes TikTok so special. Thank you for making your voices heard. Over the last few years, we have invested to keep your data safe and our platform free from outside manipulation. We have committed that we will continue to do so. This legislation, if signed into law, will lead to a ban of TikTok in the United States. We will not stop fighting and advocating for you. We will continue to do all we can, including exercising our legal rights, to protect this amazing platform that we have built with you. We believe we can overcome this together.
Now, the TikTok CEO's remarks, remember, come after the House of Representatives in the US passed a bill which would force the company to cut off its ties with the Chinese owner or be banned in the United States. Now, what are the concerns that America has about TikTok's Chinese ownership? Well, America says that TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, might have handed over the personal information of about 170 million Americans who use the app to Beijing. The bill's opponents have raised free speech concerns as well. US also alleges that China uses TikTok to push the Chinese government's agenda and that it poses a risk to national security. TikTok, on its part, says that it has not been asked for that data and would not share it even if it is asked to do so. But the concern is that if ordered by Chinese authorities, ByteDance would have to hand it over. Now, many believe that US has been late in taking action against TikTok. Several other countries, including India, have already banned it. So the question is, what changed now? Is it because it's an election year, or the US-China tussle is deepening, or the US is finally realizing the threat that TikTok poses? Let's straight away get into it and understand what exactly is happening on the broadcast. I'm joined by Lloyd Matthews. He's a technology and analyst. I'm also joined by N.S. Napinai, senior advocate and a cybersecurity expert. Thank you very much. Namaskar to both of you for joining us on Mirror Now. First of all, I'd like to start with you, Lloyd. What do you make of this, US suddenly waking up and planning to pass this bill, planning to ban TikTok when other countries have already done so? And many people like yourselves have also, discussed the fact that US has been late in taking action and it has had a softened stand towards TikTok so far.
Thank you, Shreya. I think the US reaction is late, but not unexpected. The US has been very definitive about security threats with vis-a-vis foreign corporations, especially Chinese. I think way back in 2019, under then President Trump, the US had kept Huawei outside of all telecom contracts. So Huawei was barred from bidding on any telecom-led contracts within the US. And this was well ahead of many other countries in the world, at which time, let's say, India was still doing a lot of business with Huawei. So in that sense, it is late. I think there are two other issues to it. I think the larger issue is that geopolitical conflicts are taking a toll on businesses on both ends. We saw that come into play during the India-Canada, talks after President Trudeau left after the G20. We saw it when the Maldives tension escalated. During the Galwan skirmish between India and China, we saw a call for a boycott of Chinese brands. Vivo stepped out of the IPL sponsorship. So the intersection of global brands and businesses with countries and the tensions that they cause is not new. It's only now that they're growing much larger, given the heft and the scale of some of these large corporations. Having said which, I'm a little surprised that the CEO of TikTok in America decided to take the battle literally to the voice of the people, appealing directly to users about raising their voices with their senators before it comes up for a vote, is a little bit of a challenge to sovereign authority. So I wouldn't be able to comment about the legality of it, but it seems a little strange. And to my mind, that is a matter of great surprise because it's not very often that corporations can defy, let's say, a sovereign a sovereign rule in this context. I think that is a little a point of debate in my mind.
And because, Lloyd, like you said, geopolitical factors are weighing in on how companies operate across the world. A lot of it also perhaps can be contributed to the fact that it's an election year in the United States, and the Biden administration would want to address these concerns as well. But NS Napinai, how much of a risk is there in TikTok and apps that originate from China, whose owners are in China, in data breach and national security, all of these concerns that governments across the world have had? The users of TikTok have also had this concern. Is there a larger threat, or these are just concerns that probably find themselves in a certain kind of propaganda between two countries?
It's a very, very difficult question to answer in a couple of minutes. I'll definitely try, though. So, you mentioned about two extreme issues here. The first was of national security, and the second was of individual rights in terms of privacy and how their data will be utilized. Actually, one ties into the other also. And, there was a mention about sovereignty. So I wanted to first clarify on this aspect of cyber sovereignty. Interestingly, this is an issue which has been taken up for the first time before the United Nations, and we are likely to get a soft law on it. We should have got it by this September, but we may see some delay in it, and we are likely to get something shortly. Once that comes into play, how that has a link to the TikTok issue is, to what extent is any government or a nation state likely to exercise that construct of cyber sovereignty? Where will they extend it, and for what purpose? So when we talk about individual data and national security, it comes under the tagline of information warfare. So if you ask me whether information warfare is real, I would say it's absolutely real. And the minute you talk about it in the context of information warfare, then it is indeed a national security threat. Is China doing something in terms of information warfare, or is any other nation doing something to that effect, or is only China being targeted? I feel that's something which goes case to case. When it has come to TikTok and when India banned it, we have seen till date there has not been a
Okay.
contest to it. So, to that extent, it has just let it go. Now, when the US is also taking a similar stand to say that either the ownership changes or they may ban, it's not really targeting the owners, it's targeting where the data is flowing and what is likely to be done with the data.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, if you want a broader picture, I would say the time has come for us to also have some soft laws or conventions on what and to what extent, what is the transparency that every nation state should come out with in terms of how data, personal data is being utilized, what are the usages
Which is
for
a
which it's being put.
humongous task.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
there are
indeed.
so many technicalities and nitty-gritties involved, and the different sensitivities and cultures that are involved, that it's perhaps a very, very difficult task to actually come to one consensus regarding this. But Lloyd, let me come to you and ask you the fact that there are several reports that also suggest that TikTok in China is still providing some sort of good content, perhaps due to its algorithm, the way it has been set. But in other countries, it's only providing content that is considered harmful or not so healthy for the users. Could that be a possibility as well, that the company is crafting and sort of customizing the content as per different countries, especially with relation to China?
Shreya, I think with TikTok as a platform is just crowdsourcing content. So it's making creating and uploading video content a very simple thing so that even someone with very basic rudimentary skills can do it. I think that has been their success. We saw how significantly it caught on in India before, of course, it got banned in 2020. So I think it's core design to make uploading video and shareable and gathering views. I think that is unquestioned. I think the point that is slightly more significant is that when apps are controlled or are domiciled in a particular country, and I think Mr. Tapunai made this point, what are the concerns that they have in terms of data sharing? Just as a matter of point, some of the large American digital apps, Twitter and a lot of the Meta-owned apps, including the Google-owned apps, are not available in China, right? So these are companies that have voluntarily drawn their services or limited their services because they fear some kind of Chinese censorship, right? So that is the case. So just as corporations and apps may feel uncomfortable about operating within a particular geography, I think over time, countries may also, as we're seeing in this instance, be a little uncomfortable about certain apps that they assume have close linkages to a state. So clearly at the back of this whole thing is the US-Chinese tensions in a sense. And I think that's what's aggravating the problem.
Okay.
But like I said, taking it to a consumer court, contesting it with the public at large, I think is the first of its kind. Taking it up legally is an option that every corporation has. But taking it to the court of the public by appealing directly to users, in a sense saying put pressure on your senators when it comes to a voting, I think that's new. And that, to my mind, is walking a tightrope.
That is walking the tightrope, and it is a huge task. But quickly, 30 seconds, then NS Napinai, to you, what's the way forward? Yes, you said that there should be a law regarding it, but it's so hard to actually get one common law for every country.
Well, that's what soft laws are supposed to do, harmonize laws. But, I wanted to pick on Lloyd's last point with respect to, how this is something unique. I would take a slightly different stand to say every time there has been a face-off between government and one of these social media platforms, you would see that the appeal always lies in the context of free speech. As Lloyd rightly pointed out, TikTok gave a lot of common people a platform. So when it was taken away, there was a lot of angst too. So today, when you look at it, the appeal here, why it stands on a different footing is it's a lot more wide scale, large, to the larger public than earlier appeals were. But if you look at every single instance of a government face-off, this has been a similar modus at a different scale that social media platforms have adapted. So I would just say that one fundamental...
Okay, we'll have to see how it really pans out.
Yeah, we do have a platform for free
I'm afraid
speech.
I have paucity of time, NS Napinai. I'll have to wrap it up here, but thank you very much to you and to Lloyd Matthias. Always a pleasure talking to both of you for joining us tonight and sharing your perspective. Thank you very much. Namaskar. All right.